I know you guys are all eager to wrap up and get to lunch. Thank you so much for the great session, and for those of you who are still sticking around as we wrap up, and welcome back to the folks that are on the webcast. I know Susan will be collecting information from the people who are on webcast so you can share your recommendations for us. So we want to just go back to some of the themes that we talked about when we started. We want to double down on what works. So many of the things that we know that have been tried and true. We heard Acting Administrator Hendrickson talk about one of her favorites, roundabouts. But we also heard from the Futurology panel on what they think the world is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 plus years. And so we want to accelerate that technology. And really, when we talk about culture change, it's the over 450 organizations that gives us that unique opportunity to accelerate the culture change. So we can't afford to continue to be complacent. And I think certainly there's opportunities for investment and changing things, whether it's advanced vehicle technology, helping people to understand behavioral issues. I know Dia is here with us this meeting, and she was not here at the last meeting. She wasn't able to join us, but that meeting at our one-year anniversary, we gave out the tourniquets. What if tourniquets were in the spare tire kit for cars, as we see potentially more people needing access to a tourniquet in an emergency situation at the roadside. So certainly lessons learned from the military in the field there, but how do we make sure that people can survive long enough so that they can make it to the hospital? When we look at all of the things that we can do, there's an awful lot of opportunity, and we know that we can make change. I put this picture up because at the turn of the century, when we think about workplace safety, it really didn't exist when you think about the culture of what it meant to be safe at work. And I think when we look at the number of fatalities that we have in workplaces, in all workplaces across the U.S., we have less than 5,000 fatalities on an annual basis. And you know the number one killer when it comes to workplace fatalities? Motor vehicle crashes. So we've made a tremendous amount of progress, but when it comes to motor vehicle safety, motor vehicle crashes, roadway safety for vulnerable road users, we haven't had that shift of what was once unacceptable is no longer acceptable. So how do we change as a culture to have that occur on our roadways? I was really excited. We have actually a number of probably what people would consider non-traditional members of the Road to Zero Coalition here today. Just talked with, during one of the breaks, the safety leader for Turner Construction. Construction, clearly a high-risk industry. We see a lot of injuries and fatalities. When we look at different industries, construction is one of the riskiest. But road fatalities, they've got a lot of deliveries onto their sites, onto their properties. And the things that they can do, the safety that we pass on to our employees, they take home with them. And so just encouraging people to buckle up when you're on your property. I grew up as a military brat, and I remember the exact time when my family started buckling up. Probably for some of you, you can't remember the exact time, but when you move every year or two, it's a lot easier to remember where things happened. It was in Hahn Air Force Base in Germany. They had a 100% seatbelt check when you went through the gate to get on the base. The guard would look in the car, and if people didn't have their seatbelts on, he'd make you put your seatbelts on before you could pass through the gate. Well, after a couple of times of that, where it's slowing everything down, my mom would turn around to all of the kids before we got to the gate, and she'd say, "Everybody get your seatbelts on." And then we started buckling up earlier and earlier, not just right before we got to the gate, but we started buckling up when we got into the car. And you know what? My mom's almost 80 years old. She buckles up every time she's in the car today, as do I, and my children too. And so we can change culture, not just in workplaces or in the aviation industry. We can change culture in the roads. We've certainly done it, but that 10% that doesn't buckle up, They represent 50% of the fatalities that occur in vehicles. We have got to double down on what we know works. So we have lots of opportunities. One of the other component parts of what we're offering as part of the Road to Zero is through the Department of Transportation. They have provided $1 million in funding for grants. And so last year we issued $1 million to 7 different recipients. We had over 60 applicants last year. This year, we're opening up again and live on our website. The link is there. You can go visit the grant opportunity for this year. The grant awards will be announced in March. You must be a nonprofit and a member of the Road to Zero Coalition to apply. I actually see some of our lead reviewers from the different government agencies that helped us to rank and rate the applications from last year. I want to say thank you so much for that. If any of you all are in the room, I know I'm looking right at one person. If anybody's in the room, please stand up. It's a tremendous amount of work to rank and rate those applications, so thank you. So we're really excited about the grant application process this year. We know that individuals may have questions. Susan Crotty, as always, a fantastic resource for our Road to Zero Coalition members. And so I know Susan will be available to answer questions that anybody has. Susan, thank you. And thanks to the Kaiser Permanente team, to Wayne, to Keith, to everybody for hosting us today. Our next meeting is set to be on March 20th. And we're starting to get to capacity for this space, and the NTSB has graciously offered to host us for our March 20th meeting. And we're hopeful that that might be an opportunity not just to announce the grants, but to get further along on the release of the report that we're working on. So really excited to see everyone. If you're interested in the grants, the process is open now. Thanks to the Federal Highway Administration team. Beth, Mike did a great job setting up some of the panels today, and for having Brandy Hendrickson, acting administrator, here. Thank you so much. Everybody be safe out on the roads. Jane, did I forget anything? Everybody be safe out on the roads and enjoy the holidays, and have a happy and safe new year with the ones you love. Take care.